Here we are, the big 20-minute episode, Operation Arnold's Halloween. So in this episode, as you might assume from the title, it is Halloween. And Arnold's grandpa, the guy with the hammer, all those people, they're all throwing a big Halloween party. And because they like doing it and they like scaring the trick-or-treaters. But they don't let Arnold and Gerald participate because for whatever reason, Grandpa thinks that Halloween is not a kid's holiday, even though it is. So Arnold decides to get back at Grandpa and everyone by playing a prank and scaring them all. And the thing is that there's this big paranoia that they have about aliens because there's this show they love to watch called Saucer Watch, and in it, this guy who I feel like he's supposed to be a parody of something, but I forget what, basically just covers UFO conspiracies and stuff. And they love watching it even though they're completely terrified of aliens. So Arnold and Gerald devise a prank where they're basically going to go up on the roof and create a fake radio transmission saying that they're aliens. Then, right around the time of the transmission, all their friends like Helga, Harold, all those guys, they're all going to come by dressed as aliens and scare them. Their plan goes off pretty well, except there's one thing they didn't count on, which is that the UFO show they like to watch happens to catch their broadcast and think it's actual aliens, and then they transmit it to the world, and they also catch the children dressed as aliens on tape, and it throws everyone into a mass hysteria. And Arnold and the gang try to convince everyone that it's just a prank, a hoax, when they realize what happened, but it's too late. Everyone's panicking. There's people like chasing after the aliens. Mr. Pataki's like going after aliens in his military chief. Another thing they did is they took like the water tower and they put Christmas lights on it to make it look like a mothership. And yeah, so crazy shenanigans ensue. The whole town's in chaos, but it all gets resolved in the end when the water tower gets blown up by Mr. Pataki, and the water goes onto all the children and washes off their makeup, and they realize that they aren't aliens. I really enjoyed this episode. I mean, it was a little different, because the past 20-minute specials have been a bit more serious and emotional. Like with the Christmas one, we had the big tearjerkers. With the Valentine's Day one, we actually got some development with Arnold. Here, it's mostly just played for laughs, which I understand. Halloween's not as serious a holiday. It's more of a fun, scary holiday. And it's also interesting that they went with aliens, because there's been a lot of legends on Arnold. Probably not the scariest episode on the show. I mean, I think the Ghost Train episode was probably a bit more scary. So it's interesting they went with aliens. But it did lead to an interesting thing. Like, for once, this episode was not cliche. Like, outside of a Simpsons episode that aired much later, I can't think of an episode that did anything like this. If you don't know, this is actually based off of actual events. There was a science fiction novel called War of the Worlds where aliens invade Earth, and this famous guy named Orson Welles read on the radio, but a lot of people tuned into it in the midway and thought it was an actual news broadcast of an alien invasion, and started panicking, and a mass hysteria ensued. And there's actually a reference to that in this episode when the water tower is by Wells Ridge. But other than that, this being one giant homage to that instant, there's no real, like, this is a story that's been done a million times by kid shows, unless there has been. In that case, point out in the comments. But one thing I really liked about this episode was the sense of scale. Like, you got, like, all the gang involved. Like, you had the full ensemble. Like, not a single character was left out. You had the adults, you had the teenagers, everyone was involved. And then you also just had this elaborate scheme from the radio to them coordinating over by the water tower, walkie-talkies. Like, it's just an insane amount of coordination. And then there was also just kind of hilarious, just the extremes the town goes to. Like, with Mr. Pataki and his military jeep, or the fact that he so didn't recognize Helga in, remember, Helga dressed up as an alien, the costume? The fact that the principal was going to give them chocolate. I was like, never surrender. Like, just the intense extremes everyone goes to. And there is some relevance to this in real life because, you know, I think as people, we tend to like gossip. We tend to like things going wrong. I'm not saying we don't want things wrong, but we tend to latch on to those stories and those conspiracies. Just something about it. Yeah, I think it's just one of those really episodes that really says something about us and just how also susceptible we are, how we're willing to take everything in the media at face value. Like, we aren't really check, like, is this true? Is this just giving us what we want to hear? And the other thing I really enjoyed about this episode was Maurice LaMarche's performance. He's the guy who played the host of the UFO Watch show, and if you don't know him, he voices a ton of characters: Calculon from Futurama, the Brain from Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, which is what I first thought of when I heard him, like, that's the Brain! And also Faber from Kids Next Door. And just, that voice works really well. Like, I wonder if they were trying to go for, like, an Orson Welles type of voice, but it worked well. I love the design of the specials, too, and again, it's like one of those characters that we haven't seen. There's a lot of fresh characters popping up this season, and I don't know if we probably won't see him again, but I wouldn't mind seeing him again. And that's all I have to say. Again, there wasn't a whole lot of substance. It was just sort of a fun little episode. And normally I'd be disappointed. I would be like, I expect bigger. They took 20 minutes and they really didn't do anything. But, it was fun. And I really don't have any gripes with this episode, which is rare. I don't know, just something about these 20-minute episodes are just a little extra special. And I really hope there's more because, again, I really enjoy the 20-minute episodes. That's all I have to say. Please let me know if you enjoyed this episode, if this is like one of your all-time faves. It's like, yeah, it's a fun little episode. And please continue to watch as I continue to trek through Season 2 and presumably meet tons of new characters and whatever comes next. And I'll see you then.